I thought the day I got my first paycheck after college would be one of the proudest moments of my life. $2,300. It was not a fortune, but it was mine. I earned it writing code at a tech company in Portland, Oregon. I wanted to celebrate with my family, especially my dad. I drove to their house that Friday evening with a smile I could not wipe off my face. But when my father sat me down in his office and slid a piece of paper across the desk, everything changed. The number on that paper was not what I expected. It was not reasonable. It was not even close. Before I tell you what happened that night, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you want to hear how this whole situation unfolded, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because what my father demanded that evening was something I never saw coming, and how it all came back to him years later is even more unbelievable. Let me take you back to the beginning. Growing up in Portland, my life was pretty ordinary. My father David worked at a wood manufacturing plant. He clocked in every morning at 7, and came home smelling like sawdust and machine oil. My mother Susan worked part-time at a local grocery store, mostly to keep herself busy. We were not rich, but we were not struggling either. We had a 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, 2 cars in the driveway, and dinner on the table every night. My younger sister Lily was in her final year of nursing school, and my parents were proud of both of us. But there was something about my father that always felt a little off. He was obsessed with control, especially when it came to money. My mother never had her own bank account. Every dollar that came into the house went through him. He decided what we bought, where we ate, and how much we saved. Lily got her college tuition paid in full, but she had to submit receipts for every single expense. If she bought a coffee, she had to explain why. I always thought it was just his way of being responsible, of making sure we did not waste anything. I told myself he was trying to teach us discipline. When I graduated with a degree in computer science, I was excited to start my career. I landed a job as a software developer at a mid-sized tech company. The pay was decent for someone fresh out of school. I was 25 years old, and for the first time in my life, I had my own income. I still lived at home because I wanted to save money, and my parents said it was fine. They even seemed happy about it. My mom would pack my lunch every morning, and my dad would ask me how work was going. It felt normal. It felt like family. That Friday night, my mom made BBQ ribs, my favorite. The kitchen smelled amazing, and we all sat around the table laughing and talking. Lily was telling a funny story about one of her clinical rotations, and my mom was teasing my dad about forgetting to take out the trash again. It was one of those moments where everything felt right. After dinner, my dad asked me to come into his office. He said he wanted to talk about something important. I figured he was going to give me some advice about managing my money, or maybe suggest I start investing. I was completely unprepared for what came next. He closed the door behind us and gestured for me to sit down. Then he pulled out a sheet of paper from his desk drawer. It was typed up, formatted like some kind of official document. At the top it said, "Family Contribution Plan." I looked at him confused. He slid it across the desk toward me and told me to read it. My eyes scanned the page, and my stomach dropped. The plan outlined how much money I was expected to contribute to the household each month. 85%. 85% of my salary. That meant I would be giving them $1,955 every single month. I would only keep $345 for myself. I stared at the paper, trying to make sense of it. I looked up at my father, waiting for him to laugh and tell me it was a joke, but his face was serious. He leaned back in his chair and started explaining. He said that he and my mother had spent 25 years raising me. They paid for my food, my clothes, my education. My college tuition alone was over $40,000. He said this was my responsibility now. He said Lily was still in school and needed support. He said he and my mom wanted to retire early, and this was how I could help make that happen. He called it giving back to the family. I tried to stay calm. I told him I understood that they had done a lot for me, and I was grateful. I said I would be happy to contribute maybe $300 a month. That seemed fair. But $345 for myself was not enough to live on. Rent for even a small studio apartment in Portland was at least $800. That did not include food, gas, car insurance, or anything else. I tried to explain this to him, but he cut me off. He said I was being selfish. He said I was ungrateful. He told me that family takes care of family, and if I could not see that, then maybe I did not understand what family meant. I looked at my mother, who was standing in the doorway. I thought she would say something, maybe tell him he was being unreasonable. But she just stood there silent. Lily walked by and glanced into the room. She looked at me with this expression like I was disappointing everyone. I felt trapped. My father kept talking, his voice getting louder. He said this was not a negotiation. He said this was the way it was going to be. I told him I could not agree to it. I told him it was not fair. He stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. He pointed at the door and said, if I was not willing to do this, then I was no longer welcome in his house. The argument went on for 2 hours. I kept trying to reason with him to find some middle ground, but he would not budge. Finally, I told him I needed time to think. He said I had 1 week to decide. Either I agreed to the plan, or I moved out. I left his office feeling like I had been punched in the chest. I went to my room and sat on the edge of my bed staring at the wall. I could not believe what had just happened. This was my family. This was my father. And he was giving me an ultimatum over money. I thought maybe he would cool down after a few days. I thought my mom would talk to him or Lily would tell him he was being ridiculous. But 3 days later I got a text message from him. It said, you have 1 week to move out. That was it. No explanation. No room for discussion. I tried calling my mom, but she would not pick up. When I finally got her on the phone, all she said was, your father knows best, Marlon. You need to respect his decision. I asked her how she could just go along with this, but she did not answer. She just said she had to go and hung up. I called Lily next. I thought maybe she would understand. But when I told her what was happening, she got defensive. She said I was being selfish. She said Mom and Dad had done so much for us and I was acting like I did not care. She said I was making a huge mistake. I could not believe what I was hearing. My own sister was taking their side without even listening to me. I felt completely alone. I had less than a week to find a place to live, and I only had $345 saved up. I had just started my job, so I had not had time to build any kind of financial cushion. I called my best friend from college, Jake. I explained the situation, and without hesitation, he told me I could stay with him. He had a small 1-bedroom apartment in Northeast Portland, and he said I could sleep on his couch until I figured things out. I was grateful, but I also felt humiliated. I was 25 years old, and I was about to be homeless because my own father kicked me out. The day I moved out was one of the worst days of my life. My father was not there. He left for work early and did not come back. My mom stood in the hallway and watched me pack my things. She did not help. She did not say anything. She just stood there with her arms crossed, staring at the floor. I wanted to scream at her to ask her why she was letting this happen, but I knew it would not change anything. I loaded my car with everything I owned and drove away. I did not look back. Living on Jake's couch was rough. His apartment was tiny, and I felt like I was constantly in the way. I took the bus to work every day because I wanted to save gas money. The commute was an hour and a half each way. I ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches because that was all I could afford. On weekends, I did freelance web design projects to make extra money. Every dollar I earned went into a savings account. I was determined to get my own place as soon as possible. After 3 months, I finally had enough for a security deposit. I found a room for rent in a house on the east side of town. It was 150 square feet, just big enough for a bed and a desk. The neighborhood was rough. I could hear people arguing outside my window at night, and car alarms would go off at all hours. But it was mine. It was my space, and I did not have to answer to anyone. I kept trying to reach out to my family. I sent text messages asking how everyone was doing. I called on birthdays and holidays, but no one responded. It was like I had been erased. My 26th birthday came and went without a single message from any of them. Thanksgiving was the hardest. I sat alone in my little room, eating takeout Chinese food, while everyone else was with their families. Christmas was even worse. I walked through the neighborhood and saw houses lit up with decorations, families gathered around dinner tables, kids opening presents. I felt invisible, but I refused to give up. I told myself that I would prove them wrong. I threw myself into my work. I stayed late at the office, learned new programming languages, took on extra projects. After a year, I got promoted to senior developer. My salary went up to $3,200 a month. After 2 years, I left that company and joined a bigger one. My salary jumped to $5,000. I started investing in stocks, putting money away every month. I was building a life for myself, one paycheck at a time. 3 years after I moved out, I had $20,000 in savings. I met someone too. Her name was Emma.